August 27th, 2019. Guys, you're looking at overnight images coming in today from over the United States and the eastern Atlantic. Pretty good storm over Oklahoma coming down into Arkansas. And guys, it's headed towards us. Some of these outflows here in central Mississippi, it's starting to get cloudy. Notice to your right, this tropical depression number 6 has pulled out from under the clouds as they're getting stripped back by some wind shear. You can see how clear the rotation now is. But guys, that turn to the left is what I was concerned about in the video this morning. Some of the models had it turning. Now how long it goes in this direction to the left up towards Hatteras, we don't know yet. It's kind of a battle between the front over the U.S. and this, but notice how out in front of the storm, pushing up towards Hatteras and New York, the outflow pattern is. So depending on where this thing decides to turn north, will depend on how close it comes to the east coast. Right now, we've got this direction going on. And again, it's a battle of two fronts. Now, the one coming across the U.S. is on the surface is not that strong, but you're getting enough upper level shear as you look at the other clouds to pull those tops back. Now, if that lightens up, this thing again is predicted to become a tropical storm. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it. Again, very powerful overnight into today's storms coming down through Oklahoma and Texas. Now we're getting into the middle of the day, guys, so the sun is going to be right back on top of the situation. Now, this is what the models are showing as of 11 a.m. on the update. Here's your area we're watching. But this thing is moving not in this direction at this point. Some of the models do indicate, like I mentioned earlier, at the bottom, a veer to the left and then back north. So we're going to have to watch it. That's just where the center would be, but it's already at that point now. You can see by the current radar. Now, guys, this is Tropical Storm Darian. The Navy model, again, now has it coming across Miami like we talked about earlier, and we're going to look at that model and the Canadian model as far as where they are, and both of those show this thing coming out into the Gulf of Mexico, turning back up into the Florida Panhandle. You've got a couple of other models here, and we're still a few days out. This is going to start impacting the east coast of Florida September the 1st. So you're going to, what are you, about 3 or 4 days away? It's going to cross Florida on the 2nd and be into the Gulf of Mexico by the 3rd. Now, currently 50-mile-per-hour winds. It just overnight died down. We're going to look very closely at some radar images during that period. But notice here, Saturday and Sunday, both at 8 a.m. in the morning, you're at 70-mile-per-hour storm. 74 is a Cat 1. Not going to be very much difference in that. And remember, once it crosses the Bermudas, it will be into the Gulf Stream and much warmer. Canadian model. See that, guys? Don't forget about Michael in that area. That's what that reminds me of. But we're a long way out, so don't panic. But this is, again, Canadian model. Shows it crossing Florida up through the Panhandle, up through Alabama and Mississippi. You're kind of getting a swipe into this thing right there. Notice that's September the 2nd. It's already into the Gulf according to the Canadian model. It doesn't vary much except a slight timing from the U.S. Navy model, but right up in through the Florida Panhandle. Now, this is the Navy model. This is September 3rd as I pause that. But check this out. Comes up. Cuts across, right across Lake Okeechobee there, according to this model. And by September 3rd, where it stops, you've got a very well-defined system into the Gulf of Mexico. Notice that the models that predicted the strength of that cone didn't go past this point. It just stopped right there. Going back to September 2nd here, it's over the Panhandle. Over the Central Florida. September 1st, it's starting to come across. So we're only 3 or 4 days out, guys, for you to be thinking about preparations. If you live in a mobile home in that area, even though they're not saying Cat 1, it's only 4 miles under that. And again, let's go back and look. Sunday, 8 a.m., 70-mile-per-hour winds coming ashore. Now, Saturday, that's Sunday at 8 a.m. Saturday at 8 a.m., it's still over the Bahamas. Now, none of this goes past that point, Sunday at 8 a.m., even though it's showing, the other models show it going into the Gulf of Mexico. The waters are very warm here, guys. We haven't had enough of storms in the area to cool it off. The problem with this season of very few hurricanes is that you will have a much hotter ocean and the surrounding areas. This is very interesting. Remember the video I did this morning, guys? I said I got up, couldn't sleep about 3:30 and just took a look at this. And check out this flash right here over the storm. Now, it almost looks like something on my monitor, but it wasn't. I went back. But you can tell that it's part of the actual, it was picked up on radar because, see the discoloration under it on the edges of the storm? We'll go back and look at it. But that's precisely at the time after it was passing Barbados, right there. See that green flash across the screen? Now, again, that is in the radar imaging. It was picked up by infrared. It actually was 2 pulses, and maybe 3 if it went over Africa. But we're going to look at it, and I will pause it. Right there was the first pulse, the first pulse. I don't think they're land-based. I think it's satellite-based, probably from satellites that orbit the Earth along the equator, if you look at how this thing expands. But this is, again, just before it was crossing the Leeward and the Windward Islands. This pulse flashed on their infrared radar. Also, notice the one that pulsed in front of the storm that we see off the Atlantic coast. That's telling me that this is not land-based. Whatever the radar picked up, I don't know what it is. I'm not claiming to know. We've got a lot of new technology that we're not supposed to know about. Whatever it was pulse to the left, and this pulse. Now, it probably was a full sweep. If you think about it, these images are it's not a camera, as far as a movie camera taking this on the satellite. They're a series of images that are sometimes 15, 20 seconds apart, guys, that are put into a movie, okay? So when you see this section of this pulse here and then the one that was over the coast, it could have been a sweep because we would have not seen the entire movement because it was very fast. It could have been in between frames, and that may be why we're seeing this jagged lightning-like pattern. But it's strange that right at that time is when they downgraded it. But guys on the East Coast, heads up, watch from the Outer Banks up through Jersey into that area, and all my friends in Florida, I may have to be down there during that period of time because of that old boat we've been working on. But we will watch it very closely, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.